One of the greatest features released in ES6, and actually one of my favorites, is template strings. It allows us to work with string values in a kind of different way. As you already know, in ES5 we've been using single and double quotes, and also we use the plus sign to concatenate the values. Let's recall once again how to deal with strings. I'm going to create the variables name, which should be equal to John, then age, 30, and profession, developer. Then I'm going to create a function, which actually will be a simple one, because I just want to remind you how to work with strings and how to concatenate the values. At first I'm going to use ES5 code, therefore let's call this function person ES5, and then run to the console some text values, my name is, plus the name variable, then I am, plus age, then plus years old, and I am a, plus profession. So here we use some text values which are concatenated to the values of the variables name, age, and profession. For that we have used plus signs for several times. Also, each part of the string values is surrounded by quotes, but actually that's the way how we worked with string values in ES5. Okay, let's call this function. So we have in the console, my name is John, I'm 30 years old, and I'm a developer. So we got the needed result, but you agree that we have achieved it in kinda hard way, because as we said, we have used several plus signs, quotes, and so on. In order to avoid such an inconvenient way, ES6 allows us to use the template strings. Let's see what I'm talking about. I'm going to create function. In this case, let's use arrow function. I'm going to call it person ES6. So to use the template strings, we need to use the backticks instead of the quotes. You can type the backticks by pressing the key that is placed above the top key on the keyboard. So let's write console.log and then insert here backticks, my name is. Then we need to place here the name variable, but for that we don't need to use plus sign or ending single quote anymore. Instead of that we have to put a $sign. Then we need to open the curly braces and place the name of the variable name. Then simply we have to make space and write the next coming text, I am. As you see, we have to place here another variable, so let's do it in the exact same way. Use a $sign, then curly braces, and then the age variable. Then again write some text, I mean years old, and I am a, and insert here the third variable, profession. Okay, so as you can see, we didn't use here the plus sign or the quotes. The entire string is surrounded by backticks, and the variables are placed in the curly braces, and they are written with $signs. Alright, let's invoke this function. So you see that we got the exact same results, but again in a more convenient and nice way. Okay, so that's it about template strings. Again, it's a great addition in ES6 JavaScript. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. Now it's time to consider another very helpful and convenient feature that was released in ES6. I'm going to talk about the default parameters. Let's go ahead and create a function. I'm going to use arrow function. Let's call the function person and then insert here three different parameters. The first one is going to be first name, then last name, and profession. Then run to the console. I'm going to open Backticks and insert here I am. Then I'm going to pass here first name, followed by the last name, then some text, and I am a, and finally put here profession. Alright, after that I'm going to invoke the function, and as an argument let's place here only the first name, John. So as you see, the function has 3 parameters overall, but only the 1 argument. So as you can see, we got I am John, then undefined, and I am undefined. The reason is simple: we haven't provided any arguments for the last name and profession. JavaScript engine found here 1 argument, and by default it made it the argument of the first parameter. In order to fix that, in ES5 we have a couple of ways. The first one is to use the if-else statement. So as the condition, I'm going to place here last name equal to undefined. So if this condition is true, we need to assign some value to the last name parameter, let's say Smith. After that, we have to do the exact same thing with the third parameter, which is a profession. So let's use another if statement. Insert here profession equals to undefined. And then inside the curly braces, I'm going to put profession, and let's assign to it developer. So right now we have the needed results. I'm John Smith and I'm a developer. Okay, now let's insert the second and the third arguments, Doe and let's say designer. So if we save this code, we will get I'm John Doe and I'm a designer. In this case, the conditions in if statements were false. Therefore, the blocks of code inside them were not executed, and we got the result with a different last name and profession. So this is the one way to fix that problem. Besides that, instead of if statement, we can use logical OR operator and achieve the same result. Let's do it for the profession. I'm going to delete if statement, and instead of it, write and assign to it profession. Then follow it by logical OR operator, and then place developer. This is a kind of shorter way rather than using the if statement. So when we invoke the function, if we insert the third argument, then the parameter profession will take the relevant value. But if we miss the third parameter, then it will take the value developer. So as you can see, we have the same result because the third argument is defined. But if we get rid of it, then we will get the developer as the value of the profession. Okay, so this is the way how we worked with parameters in ES5. Honestly, it wasn't so bad, but ES6 offers us a much better approach. We no longer need if statements or logical OR operator. We can simply assign the default value to the parameter itself. So we can insert here first name equal to John, then last name Smith, and the profession developer. Then let's go ahead and delete the arguments below. So we get now the default values of the parameters. I'm John Smith and I'm a developer. So those are the default parameters with default values. But of course, if we insert here some arguments, for example, Nick, Doe, and designer, then the default values will be overwritten and we will get I'm Nick, Doe, and I'm a designer. Alright, so that's all about the default parameters. Let's move on and talk about another very helpful and great feature of the ES6 JavaScript. I'm going to talk about spread operator. In order to make the working process easier, I'm going to compare the ES5 code to ES6. Let's say we have 2 arrays. I'm going to call the first one numbers 1, and then insert here numbers from 1 through 4. Then let's duplicate this line of code, change the name, we need numbers 2, and insert here the numbers from 5 through 8. So suppose that we need to concatenate those 2 arrays and make a new one. For that, in JavaScript we have a built-in method called concat, which actually works with the arrays and allows us to make a new array with concatenating 2 or more arrays. So let's go ahead and create a new variable. I'm going to call it numbers3, and then assign to it numbers1 dot concat, and as the argument inside of the parentheses, let's insert numbers2. Okay, let's go ahead and check what do we have displayed in numbers3 array in the console. So we have a new array which consists of the numbers from the numbers1 and numbers2 arrays. This is a nice way, it works fine, but sometimes it's not really convenient, especially when we want to concatenate those arrays and at the same time add the new item between the items of the numbers1 and numbers2 arrays. In order to achieve that, let's use a little trick. Let's delete those lines, create again a new array and make it empty. After that, at first concatenate that empty array with numbers1 array. So we need numbers3 equal to numbers3 dot concat, and then insert here numbers1. Now let's check in the console. What do we have? Run to the console numbers3. So we have an array with the items from the numbers1 array. Now it's the moment when I want to add a new item, which then should be placed between the numbers1 and numbers2 array items. So let's use here a push method and add a new item. Let's say 10. So as you see, we have added a new item to numbers3 array. And finally, it's time to concatenate it with numbers2 array. So we need numbers3 equal to numbers3 dot concat, and we have to pass here numbers2. Alright, so finally we got the needed result, but for that we used a couple of different steps. In ES6 this stuff became much simpler thanks to the spread operator. We can simply create a new variable, let's call it numbers4, and make it empty. And now it's time to use the spread operator. For that we just need to write 3 dots and then the name of the array numbers1. Actually, the spread operator takes the items from the array out, but because of that we passed it into the square brackets. Finally we will get a new array. Okay, in the same way, let's place here the second array, numbers2, and then let's run the numbers4 array to the console. So we have here a new array which consists of the items from the numbers1 and numbers2 arrays. So using the spread operator we have concatenated numbers1 and numbers2 arrays in a very simple way. In order to add new items either between the array items or at the beginning or at the end of the array, we just need simply to insert them like so. So you see that the items are added and placed on the relevant places. Alright, this was the concatenating of the arrays, but using the spread operator we can even copy the arrays. Let's go ahead and try to do it using ES5. Create a new array, names, and insert here a couple of names, Jane, Bob, Alex, and then Anne. So we want to copy this array, and for that I'm going to create another variable and then assign to it names array. So I'm going to call this variable names copy, which should be equal to names. Let's go ahead and log both variables to the console. I mean names and names copy. You see that we have two arrays with the exact same values. But if we use the push method and add a new item to the names array, let's insert here John, then it will be added to both arrays. It doesn't matter if we add the item to the names array or names copy. In both cases we will have the same result. So in order to avoid that problem, in ES5 we can use the following trick. We need to concatenate an empty array with the names array, like so. So now you see that after using the push method, the new item is added to the names array only and not to names copy array. Alright, so actually I don't want to use so many tricks and hacks, therefore let's use the spread operator. We just need to assign to the names copy array with ... names. Okay, so that's it regarding the spread operator. Let's move on.